All right, guys, how's it going? Orange Form coming at you guys today. I'm going to come at you guys today with a little something different. Everybody knows it's snowing outside today. A little bit of flurries. So flurries equal Christmas. Christmas equals NFL. NFL equals schedule. Baby. Oh yeah, the schedule's out. So I'm going to talk about the Lions schedule. I'm going to get to some grades tomorrow for sure. But as of right now, I'm going to talk about the Lions 2020 NFL schedule. So I want to go over a few things before I get to that. And last year the Lions 3-13. We all know it. They were garbage. Couldn't close out games. Competitive in most of their games, even with injuries. And I don't want to use that as an excuse, but it's fact. That's what happened. They lost 11 total games, single digits. So right there, it tells you they were in games. They were in games. They lost 3 games by 3 points. Then they lost 2 games by a total of 4 points, so 8 points. Then they lost 1 game by 1 point. So that's a total of 18 points in 6 games. It's peanuts, nothing, man. You know what I mean? My God, like they were in games. They were in games. Uh, they got blown out by Tampa Bay. They got their heads kicked in by Tampa. Lost by 21 points. Winston came in and threw all over the place. Uh, Minnesota beat us up a couple times. They beat us once by 13 and another game by 12. Um, uh, from what I can remember, we might have been competitive in one of those. Who knows? But and then the Broncos ended up beating us by 10. So that's 3 games, 3 games where we didn't really have a chance. You know what I mean? Not saying that we should have been 13-3 because we shouldn't have because we're not that good. I'm just saying we were competitive. We were very competitive last year, barring under certain circumstances, injuries and all that shit. But you know what? Nobody gives a shit about your injuries. Nobody cares about that crap. You gotta win. You gotta close out games. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get to week one. But before I do that, I just want to let you guys know that when I go through these teams, I'm gonna give you guys their key adds and their key additions, and their key losses. Okay, I just want to let you guys know that I'm not gonna really go into detail about the players because I've wrote down too much stuff. I just kind of wrote down who I think was a key addition and who was a key loss under um, my preference, my opinion. Okay. So the first week, Lions, week one, Bears come into town. Okay, come on in Chicago, let's go. Place is going to be on fire. Place is going to be just insane. I'll be there, 100%. But they've added guys like they drafted Cole Kmet, the really good tight end from Notre Dame. They picked up Robert Quinn, the defensive end from Dallas. Came in from Dallas. They picked up Nick Foles, the quarterback. I don't know who's going to win the job there, Trubisky or Foles. I don't even care. Um, they also brought in Jimmy Graham, who should have retired 3-4 years ago. Um, then they lost guys like Nick Kwiatkowski, the linebacker, who went to the Raiders, who I thought was a really good linebacker, who really turned it on last year. They lost quarterback Chase Daniel. He came to Detroit. Then they lost offensive outside linebacker Leonard Floyd, who rolled over to the Rams. They also lost Nick Williams, who came to Detroit, the defensive tackle, who had a breakout year last year, finally. And then they lost Clinton Dix. He rolled over to Dallas. So I got the Lions, Ford Field, week one, home opener, W. They get the W there, okay? Week two, we go to Green Bay. Their key adds were quarterback Jordan Love, who they drafted. They drafted A.J. Dillon, the running back out of Boston College. Beast of a human being. Then they picked up guys like offensive tackle Rick Wagner, who was hit or miss in Detroit. He wasn't a total failure, but he's pretty much a failure though. He would have like a good year than a bad year. He was not good. Then I thought it was a good pick. They picked up Christian Kirksey, the linebacker out of Cleveland, picked him up, and then they picked up Devin Funchess out of Indianapolis, like a red zone, the wide receiver, possession wide receiver. He doesn't do much. Then they lost guys like Blake Martinez, who went to the Giants, the good linebacker, the tackling machine. Then they lost guys like they lost Jimmy. They lost Jimmy Graham, who rolled over to the Bears. Then they lost Brian Bulaga, who rolled over to the Chargers. They lost Kyler Fackrell, the pass rush specialist, went to the Giants. B.J. Goodson, another linebacker from Cleveland. I think he played for Cleveland or yeah, not 100%. He might have went to Cleveland, not too sure. Then wide receiver Geronimo Allison, he came over to Detroit. I got us going in the Green Bay. I got us losing that game. We struggle over there. We struggle in Green Bay, and I think we're going to lose that game. So we get the L there. Then we roll over we go to Arizona. Their key additions, they drafted Isaiah Simmons, the linebacker / safety out of Clemson. They drafted Josh Jones, the really good offensive tackle. Defensive tackle Leki Fotu from Utah. They drafted running back Eno Benjamin. He was a good draft pick too. Then they picked up guys like Jordan Phillips, outside linebacker Devin Kennard from the Lions. Then they picked up Ronnie Gunter, and the great pickup was DeAndre Hopkins. Hi, baby.
Can you please wear your black jogging pants tomorrow?
Okay, baby, I will. I love you. And then, where was I? Yeah, they picked up DeAndre Hopkins, who I thought was a phenomenal pickup for them. It was a great pickup. Just adds a really good weapon for Murray there. Then they went out and lost running back David Johnson. I don't think they really lost too much. Gained a lot. I'm giving the Lions the L on this one. We're going to lose that game too. Then we come limping home to Ford Field for week 4. We come back home. Their key additions were Malcolm Jenkins, the safety. He's been in the league for a long time. Old reliable. Wide receiver Emmanuel Sanders was a great addition. Great addition for that offense in New Orleans. He's going to really pair up well with Michael Thomas. Then they also brought in Jameis Winston, the quarterback out of Tampa. Then they added guys like in the draft Cesar Ruiz, the center guard. He could play either or. They picked up. They drafted Zach Bond, and then they drafted tight end Adam Troutman. That was a pretty good draft for them. They lost guys like Teddy Bridgewater, who rolled over to Carolina. They lost safety Von Bell, who went to Cincinnati, and they lost A.J. Klein, who rolled over to Buffalo. I got us going into New Orleans, and I got us losing. We lose that game too. So we don't. It doesn't look promising right away. It's 1-3 right there. Not good, but that's what it is. So then this is where I think we turn it around. We go to Jacksonville. And Jacksonville added a couple good pieces. They added linebacker Joe Schobert out of Cleveland. I think they added Ronnie Gunner. Was it them who added? Yeah, Ronnie Gunner from Arizona, the defensive end. Then they picked up Tyler Eifert, the tight end out of Cincinnati, who can't stay healthy. He can't. And then they drafted guys like C.J. Henderson, the rookie out of Florida. He's a Gator. And then another good draft pick. They drafted outside linebacker / D end Kayla Von Chason from LSU. They drafted wide receiver Laviska Shenault, a beast of a wide receiver, and then they drafted Devon Hamilton. I think he played for the Buckeyes. He was a defensive tackle. And then they didn't really lose too much, but they're going to lose Yannick Ngakoue, the stud defensive end. They're going to lose him via trade because he's begging to get out of there. And then they lost the guys like Cedric Ogbuwe, the offensive tackle. He rolled over to Seattle. I got us winning that game. I got us going into Jacksonville and winning that game because I feel that Jacksonville's not. I'm not sold on Minshew, and I still think their offense is not as strong. Then we're going to Atlanta. We go to Atlanta. That's week 7. Their key additions were Dante Fowler, a rollover from the Rams. They picked up Todd Gurley, who came over for the Rams, a banged up Todd Gurley. Then they drafted guys like A.J. Terrell, the corner out of Clemson, Marlon Davidson, the defensive end out of Auburn. Then they drafted Jalen Hawkins, a good safety. The key losses were they lost Austin Hooper, who had a big year last year. He rolled over to Cleveland. They lost veteran cornerback Desmond Trufant, who came to Detroit. And then they lost offensive guard Wes Schweitzer, went to Washington. They lost Vic Beasley, the DN, to Tennessee. Devondre Campbell, he rolled over to Arizona. Then they lost defensive end Adrian Claiborne, who rolled over to Cleveland. I got them coming in. I got those guys going in there, and I got those guys winning too. So make up for a couple games, and we win week 7. Then it's week 8. Indianapolis Colts come to town. They added guys like Phillip Rivers, who I think should have retired this year. He can't even throw the ball downfield anymore. He's got some pretty good weapons in Indy, but not as good as he did in LA. He had better weapons over there. So they added him. Then they added cornerback Xavier Rhodes from Minnesota, who Marvin Jones absolutely exposes every time he plays. Defensive tackle Sheldon Day from San Fran. He rolled over to the Colts. Then they picked up DeForest Buckner too. I think they got him in a trade. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think it was a trade. But he came over from San Fran. Then they drafted guys like Jonathan Taylor, the running back out of Wisconsin. He'll pair up with Mack. He's a fumble guy, though. He fumbles a lot. Then they drafted Michael Pittman, the wide receiver. Then they drafted Julian Blackman, the safety. They lost guys like Eric Ebron. He went to Pittsburgh. Pierre Desir, who went to the Jets. Funches went to Green Bay, the wide receiver. And then Joe Hagg, who went to Tampa Bay. He's offensive tackle. I got us winning that game, week 8. So we ripped off 3 wins in a row. 3 wins in a row, and we're rolling. Then, this is probably where it gets real tough. They go to Minnesota, week 9. Their key additions were Michael Pierce, from Baltimore, the monster defensive tackle. They picked up the kicker, Dan Bailey, whatever. Had some big years in Dallas, so. Then they drafted guys like wide receiver Justin Jefferson out of LSU, Jeff Gladney, the cornerback, the offensive tackle Ezra Cleveland out of Boise State. Then they picked up, they drafted Cameron Dantzler, Mississippi State, another corner. Then they drafted James Lynch, the guy that I loved out of Baylor. It was a great pick by them, I thought. They lost guys like Trey Waynes, who rolled over to Cincinnati, the corner. And they lost Linval Joseph, who went to the Chargers. Then they lost defensive end Stephen Weatherly, who went to the Carolina Panthers. I got us going in there in Minnesota week 9. I got us losing. So we go from a win streak and we lose week 9. It's okay. We're not out of the water yet. Then they come back home. Washington comes to town. Week 10. Their key additions were Kendall Fuller from Kansas City, the corner. They added Wes Schweitzer from Atlanta, the guard. Logan Thomas, the tight end. They're looking for a tight end. Washington. Then they drafted guys like Chase Young, who's a stud. I thought was the best guy in the draft. Then they drafted Antonio Gandy Golden, the wide receiver, and Antonio Gibson. So they got some key additions there. They lost guys like Eric Flowers, who went to Miami. They lost Case Keenum. They lost cornerback Josh Norman, who went to Buffalo. I got us coming home. I got Washington coming in, and I got us winning. W again. Then we go back to Carolina, week 11. Their key adds were Teddy Bridgewater from New Orleans. They picked up Robbie Anderson, the wide receiver from the Jets, who runs in a straight line, but he can fly. But he doesn't really do anything else much, but he can fly. Then they drafted guys then they picked up Stephen Weatherly too, who came from Minnesota. And they drafted guys like Derek Brown, defensive tackle. They went heavy defense, these guys. Gross Matos from the defensive end from Penn State. He rolled there. He got drafted there. Then they picked up safety Jeremy Chin. And they lost guys like James Bradbury, who I thought was one of the best corners coming out in free agency this year. I was hoping the Lions were going to make a play on him, but he was asking for a ton of money. He got paid by the Giants 15, 16 million, something like that. Then they lost guys like Mario Addison, who went to Buffalo, Gerald McCoy, defensive tackle, went to Dallas. Then they lost guys like Vernon Butler, who went to Buffalo, defensive tackle. Then they lost the old timer Greg Olson, still in the league, who rolled over to Seattle. I got us going into Carolina, and I got us pulling out the upset. I got the W for them guys too, for the Lions. Then this one I kind of teeter-tottered. I wasn't too sure. Thanksgiving Day game, week 12, place is hyped. Lions are playing good football right now. Key adds, they picked up Randall Cobb, whatever. They picked up Eric Murray, the free safety out of Cleveland. They picked up the defensive tackle, Timmy Jernigan, from Philadelphia, I want to say. Then they drafted guys like Ross Blacklock, the rookie. Then they drafted Jonathan Grenard, the defensive end. Then they brought in guys like David Johnson from Arizona. They lost DJ Reader. And then their key loss is that they lost DeAndre Hopkins. Now, I don't really think they have a great offense. Now, I don't trust David Johnson. I wouldn't trust him to be my number one running back. That's for damn sure. And I don't really know what they're going to do. I know that Deshaun Watson can't be happy that his boy rolled over to Arizona. They traded him, actually. I couldn't believe they did that to him, man. Those guys, those two were just starting to mesh. So I got us winning a big game at home, Thanksgiving Day, prime time, getting the W. So, okay, then goes to week 13. Week 13, we go to Chicago, a team that we should beat, but it's a typical SOL game. They're gonna do what you fucking think they're supposed to do. You think they're gonna win, they should win, they're gonna lose. They're gonna put that L up. It's just gonna happen. They're gonna do it. And then they come home week 14. Green Bay comes to town. We're winning. We're gonna beat them at home. We're gonna beat Green Bay at home. Then we got to go to week 15. This is when it starts getting crunch time. Then we got to go to Tennessee. And they added guys like Vic Beasley, defensive end out of Atlanta. They drafted Isaiah Wilson, good offensive tackle, and they drafted Christian Fulton, the stud corner out of LSU. Then they lost guys like Jack Conklin, who rolled over to Cleveland, and they lost Marcus Mariota, who'll be either I don't know what Gruden's got in store for him over in Vegas, but he was a starter, so he'll be backing up Carr, I'm assuming. So I got us losing that game at Tennessee. Crucial game. You got to win those kind of games. They're going to go there and they're going to lose. It'll be a dogfight, though. Then, this is the game that I have to go to. I'm excited to go to. They come back home. They play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or a lot of people want to call it the Tampa Bay Gromcaneers. That's what everyone's calling it. So you might as well stick with it, right? That's week 16. So their key adds, obviously, were Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski. They re-signed Sue to stay. There's no way he was leaving. The defense is really good. They drafted guys like the offensive tackle Tristan Wirfs out of Iowa, who should be protecting the Brady. They drafted safety Antoine Winfield out of Minnesota. They brought in the running back Keyshawn Vaughn, drafted him. They drafted wide receiver Tyler Johnson out of Minnesota. So they got some key additions there. They lost guys like Carl Nassib, who went to the Raiders, the defensive end. Bo Allen, who went to New England, the defensive tackle. They lost Brashard Perryman, but they don't really need him because they have studs already at wide receiver. He ended up going to the Jets. Then they lost running back Peyton Barber, who went to Washington. Then they lost, obviously, Jameis Winston, who will be backing up Breeze, eventually probably taking over. So I got an L. There, man. I got a hard-fought game. But if everyone stays healthy, like I'm just predicting health here, right? And if that happens, I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to come into Ford Field and they're going to rip our hearts out right there. And that's another must-win game, and you lost it. So I got an L coming there. So then I got us coming home, last game of the year, Minnesota, and I got us winning a dogfight. I think that's how the season's going to go. I got us at 9-7. Come on, let's go. I'll take anything you can dish out because I'll dish it right back. At worst, we'll be 6-10 at worst, but I think we're gonna win 9 games. And you're not gonna make the playoffs winning 9 games. So either Quinn and Patricia are both getting fired immediately after that game, or I'm going to eat a shoe on camera. If those guys don't make the playoffs, I'll be shocked. I'll be shocked if they retain their jobs, Quinn and Patricia. So 9-7, you're not getting in the playoffs, but you played good football all year for the most part. But it doesn't matter because you didn't win, right? Nobody cares. Nobody cares about your effort. No one cares about any of that shit. Win football games. You left probably 2-3 games on the table that you. Because if you probably would have won 10, you probably would have snuck in a wild card. You could sneak in a wild card at 9-7, but I just don't think it's going to happen. You usually got to win 10, 11 games, man. Usually. The odd time you win like 9 games, you can get in. But I got them at 9-7, boys and girls. So come at me. Do whatever you want. But that's it, man. And I hope you guys had a really good time doing this. I had a great time doing this. Hopefully it wasn't too, repetitive. But I thought adding the key ads and the losses might have been helpful for some people. Google it. Google these guys that I said, or not. And but 9-7, baby. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm probably going to do a draft grade tomorrow, man. I think I got the Baltimore Ravens coming at you. Robert Dundera. Stop crying. This one's for you, baby. All right. Boom.